Thanks for watching this edition of the Fox 7 Austin Crime Watch digital exclusive. I'm Dave Freilich, and we're taking a look at some of the crime stories that have made headlines recently in our area.
New advancements in DNA technology and connecting a lot of dots led to the breakthrough in the yogurt shop murders. Today, officials provided a briefing on how they were able to identify the man they believe killed 4 girls 34 years ago, and why they say this investigation is not over yet. Fox 7 Austin's Rudy Koski is live at APD headquarters with the story. Rudy.
I'm like, yeah, a lot of dots had to be collected to get us to this point today. This case, has been filled with years of heartbreak, missteps, and a long-running hope for some closure. Today, it appears that dedication, some science, and some luck have paid off. The Austin City Council chamber was packed Monday as Mayor Kurt Watson declared a long-running nightmare appears to be over.
This day has been a long time coming.
Watson spoke similar words back in 1999. That's when he announced the arrest of 4 men for the 1991 murders of Amy Ayers, Jennifer Roberson, her sister Sarah, and Eliza Thomas.
Today, we finally get to hear those words.
But the charges eventually fell apart. Now, 34 years later, in a case known as the yogurt shop murders, Robert Eugene Brashers has become the new prime suspect.
Brashers died by suicide in 1999 after a standoff with police in Missouri. And his DNA has since been, and before this connection, he has been connected to murders and rapes across the country.
Those other cases help provide the break investigators in Austin have waited 3 decades for.
The detectives back then had the foresight to go ahead and collect what evidence they could.
During this briefing, lead APD Detective Dan Jackson noted a lot of important clues were washed away when a fire was put out inside the yogurt shop. But a recent analysis of a shell casing that was found in a drain sent Jackson and his team on an unexpected journey to Kentucky, where a link was made to a 1998 cold case there.
We flew up to Kentucky to review our cases with their detectives, and the murders did share similar details.
The matching bullet casings were fired from a .380 pistol. Brashers reportedly had that kind of a gun when he was arrested near El Paso shortly after the yogurt shop murders. But the gun was never turned over to APD.
We don't know why he was in Austin. We have found no connection to Austin. Why he took this route, we may never know.
New advancements in analyzing DNA evidence have linked Brashers not only to the cases in Kentucky and Austin, but also crimes in South Carolina and several in the Mid-South.
I am confident in the totality of data generated to date because it has remained consistent. The DNA story never changed.
The evidence so far has not found anything to connect Brashers to the original suspects. But the breakthroughs may address whether or not he had help.
The surviving victims of Brashers' violence always reported he was alone when he acted. He never was known to have an accomplice. And we have a documented case because they survived where he was able to do a home invasion. He controlled 4 women alone, tied them up, and sexually assaulted one of them in 1997 in Memphis. So that's something he is able to do, is 4.
Yeah, but that right now isn't definite hard proof that we don't have an accomplice. And one of the reasons why investigators say that they're still working this case, there's still a lot more dots to connect. And it's also why Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza said until questions regarding an accomplice are fully answered, he will hold off on issuing an apology to the original 4 suspects. Mike?
Rudy, the DNA that investigators use is not the type that we typically hear about in trials. Does that mean that this isn't a sure lock on the identification of this suspect?
Yeah, we're commonly hear about DNA, and it is a lockdown, it's a hard, it is this guy, but that's not what this DNA is that they found, as they refer to as the YSTR, that Y strand. It's usually, we're told, only good for male, well, not only, it is only good for male subjects and not for women, and it's typically issued and used to eliminate suspects, not necessarily to identify and find a suspect, but we're also told that Brashers has a rare strand of this YSTR, and that's why this unique marker is being used to help link him to possibly several more unsolved cases. Mike?
Okay, Rudy, downtown for us. Thank you for that. Now, the victim families also spoke out today. For decades, Austin police received thousands of tips, dozens of confessions, most leading nowhere. Well, now the families finally believe they have an answer. Fox 7 Austin's Alec Nolan joining us with that part of the story. Alec.
Yeah, Mike, since that day in 1991, this has been an ongoing story in Austin and beyond. But for the families, it's been a stark reality. Today, they shared their emotions as they try to process finding out who killed their loved ones.
The million kindnesses that have been extended to me and my family have gotten us to this moment.
A moment 34 years in the making. A suspect finally identified in the 1991 yogurt shop murders, Robert Eugene Brashers, a known serial killer and rapist who committed suicide in 1999, 8 years after the quadruple homicide in Austin.
The outpouring of love from strangers because of these tragic circumstances has taught me about the nature of humanity. Living through something like this, you would think that I'd feel worse about humanity, but instead I feel better.
For more than 3 decades, Sonora Thomas has been holding on to memories of her sister Eliza, who was only 17 at the time of her death. Thomas holding back tears, thankful for the breakthrough, but wishing her mother Maria was still alive to see it.
I think of my mom today, and I wish she were here. Our reality doesn't change after today. Our families are still too small, still missing an essential ingredient, and we are lesser for it. We have been robbed of a life with nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and with sisters to grow old with.
Out of the 4 girls murdered that horrific night, Amy Ayers, the youngest, just 13 years old at the time. Her big brother, Sean, saying he was never sure this day would come.
At one point, I had given up on God, but he never gave up on me, and I am thankful for that.
Ayers thanking everyone from law enforcement to the DNA testing labs, and most importantly, his family.
The result you see today is when you have an army of people working together to reach a common goal, not for themselves, but for the victims and their families. Thank you to all of you.
As one chapter closes for the families, another opens, one that hopes to be filled without decades of suffering.
I know now what happened, and that does ease my suffering. And I can continue to pass on all the kindnesses that have been shown to me over the decades.
Yeah, Mike, we talk about the victims, of course, in that case being teenagers. Both Sean and Sonora, who we saw talk, they were also teenagers during that time, 34 years later, getting some answers.
They lived their whole lives. Sean Ayers also expressed some frustration that I'm sure many of the family members got to be feeling.
Yeah, basically what they said is, we understand this is a story in Austin and even nationally, but for them, it's been a stark reality. They've had to deal with this every single day. And Sean felt that the information being leaked on Friday forced them to kind of move this up ahead of schedule. He felt like he had to write a speech very quickly, something he didn't want to do. And as you mentioned, try to encapsulate 34 years into a couple minutes in a speech.
34 years of just, nobody can imagine what those families have gone through for the last 34 years.
No, and some closure, but it ended on a positive note with them saying, hey, this is just one part of the chapter. We still have work to do.
Okay, Alec Nolan, thanks very much. 4 other men spent years accused of those murders, but they were eventually exonerated. Today, the Travis County District Attorney apologized for their prosecution. Fox 7's Marco Bittnell joining us live with that part of the story. Marco.
Mike Wolf, for years, prosecutors were convinced that a group of young men were behind the yogurt shop murders. 3 of them even spent time behind bars, with a few convicted, facing life sentences and even the death penalty. Today, Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza apologizing, but admitting that it wouldn't return the time that they lost.
I will say I am sorry. Though I know that that will never be enough.
Apologies from the Travis County District Attorney, not just for the victims of the yogurt shop murders and their families, but for 4 men wrongfully prosecuted for years.
We will take any necessary steps to ensure that they can move forward with their lives.
Since the late 90s, a group of young men were seen as the prime suspects in the 1991 yogurt shop murders.
Early this morning, the Austin Police Department, with assistance from other law enforcement agencies, served 4 arrest warrants charging 4 individuals with capital murder.
Those individuals were Maurice Pierce, Robert Springsteen, Michael Scott, and Forrest Wellborn, all between 15 to 17 years old at the time of the murders. In 1999, after APD reopened interrogation, Springsteen and Scott confessed to the murders, implicating the other 2 boys as well.
Each case will be ordered dismissed without prejudice.
Charges were eventually dropped for Pierce and Wellborn due to lack of evidence, but by 2003, Pierce had already spent years in jail.
For 3.5 years, I was separated from my wife and daughter, my family and my friends, and those years I will never be able to regain.
But Scott and Springsteen were convicted, with Scott receiving a life sentence and Springsteen the death penalty.
And in compliance with the laws of the state of Texas, I hereby assess your punishment at death.
Their confessions were used against one another in court, but they both claimed that their confessions were coerced by APD.
Mr. Scott confessed after an 18-hour interrogation. Mr. Springsteen confessed after a 5-hour interrogation.
But eventually, Springsteen and Scott were granted new trials after a new ruling said their confessions could not be used against one another without cross-examination. In 2009, as prosecutors prepared for a new trial, testing found that none of the DNA at the scene matched that of the original 4 suspects. After nearly 10 years in jail, Springsteen and Scott's charges were dropped.
It's wonderful, and I'd like to thank God and my families and my attorney for this opportunity.
This has been a long time in coming, and I'm happy to be here.
Now, 34 years later, District Attorney Jose Garza admitting the role that his office played in their imprisonments.
The evidence points to the guilt of Robert Eugene Brashers and to the innocence of Maurice Pierce, Michael Scott, Robert Springsteen IV, and Forrest Wellborn.
And we know that Maurice Pierce was killed in 2010 during a traffic stop with APD. We've reached out to the attorneys, which represented the other men during the prosecutions, for more info on them, but we still have yet to hear back. Mike.
And Marco, why were these men seen as suspects in the first place?
Well, that goes all the way back to just days after those murders in 1991. Maurice Pierce was arrested with a gun which happened to be the same make and model as the one that was used at the yogurt shop. And after hours of interrogation, Pierce actually admitted to those murders. But once they interviewed him again the next day, they realized that his story didn't match up with details of the crime scene. Reportedly, Pierce was with Wellborn, Scott, and Springsteen after the night of the murders. They were all interrogated, but then eventually let go. And then it wasn't until 8 years later in 1999 when detectives went back to the interrogations and pursued them again as suspects. Mike, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Marco.
7 years after Kendrex White was found not guilty by reason of insanity for the stabbing death of Harrison Brown, he appeared in court. Cameras weren't allowed inside. White was wearing a blue checkered shirt and glasses. He's hoping to leave the Kerrville State Hospital and move to a group home. Fox 7 spoke to Harrison Brown's mother a few months ago.
Fight for Harrison, and I'm going to call everybody. And I want everybody to know that this is about to happen. And if this is what it's going to mean. You know, you should not be okay with it. Nobody should be okay with it, except the killer.
The woman who filed the application to change White's commitment from inpatient to outpatient testified Wednesday. She said White came in experiencing delusional thinking, false beliefs, hallucinations, and nightmares. She says in 2022, White still reported experiencing auditory hallucinations, but hasn't since. This hearing was supposed to happen back in July, but was postponed because of the deadly Kerrville flooding. Records revealed the blood tests taken to be used for that hearing showed White's medication wasn't working correctly, and he was not at therapeutic levels. His doctor said if the hearing would have happened then, she would not have wanted to move forward with his discharge. She said they had to double his dosage to get him back on track, but claims he's stable now. If the judge decides to ultimately grant this request, a social services director testified White will see a psych provider at least once a month. The facility will be staffed 24/7. There will be a check-in and out area, have an 11 p.m. curfew. He will not be GPS tracked, and White will have access to knives.
Robert Roberson could be executed in 2 weeks. He was convicted more than 2 decades ago for the death of his 2-year-old daughter. But people on both sides have been pushing for a new trial, arguing that his conviction was based on junk science. Several groups spoke at the Capitol today. Fox 7 Austin's Angela Shen is live at the Capitol with more on that. Angela.
Yeah, we even heard from someone who's been convicted of child abuse before, accused of shaken baby syndrome, and then had his case overturned. That's the same diagnosis that Roberson is accused of inflicting on his daughter. Robert Roberson faces execution on October 16th for the death of his 2-year-old daughter, Nikki, in 2002. Josh Burns knows what he's going through. Burns was convicted for child abuse in Michigan, accused of shaken baby syndrome. He spent a year in prison before his case was overturned.
This man was convicted using science and methods that no longer stand under the scrutiny of truth and justice. And I stand here today as living proof of that. Robert's life hangs in the balance.
State Representative Lacey Hull and parents' rights advocates spoke about Roberson's case, false allegations of child abuse by doctors, and protecting rights in end-of-life decisions.
These types of child abuse allegations still occur today, as does the rush to remove life-sustaining treatment from children by pressuring families or circumventing parents' rights.
Advocates for Roberson say Nikki was removed from life-sustaining treatment without her father's knowledge. They also claim he was convicted using junk science, and Nikki's death was because of illness and an accident.
That's what shaken baby syndrome is. It's just a theory. It's a theory that's never been replicated by modern science.
Roberson also had undiagnosed autism back then, which may have led to misconceptions about his emotions.
Robert deserves an unbiased and fair trial where all of the evidence, including exculpatory evidence that has never been presented to a jury, is weighed and considered.
To those that are fighting to kill this man on October 16th, I simply want to ask a question. What is the harm in giving him a new trial?
And the state maintains that Roberson's conviction still stands. The Texas Attorney General had sought a new execution date for him back in July. The judge said then the court has an obligation to not let the case linger. Mike?
Are there other legal challenges that are still pending in this case?
Yeah, Roberson still has 2 applications that basically challenge his imprisonment. Those are pending in the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, and his attorneys have also filed in the U.S. Court of Appeals asking them to stop the execution since there hasn't been movement on the state filings. Back to you.
Angela Shen from downtown, thank you. A Williamson County judge will not lower the bond for a teenager facing a mass shooting charge in connection to last year's Juneteenth celebration. Fox 7 Austin CrimeWatch reporter Meredith Aldis was at this hearing this morning in Williamson County and has the story. Meredith.
Mike, Ricky Thompson's defense attorney was pushing for his bond to be lowered from $1 million to $500,000. Now, the district attorney said it would be dangerous for him to have a bond that he could potentially afford and be able to get out. 18-year-old Ricky Thompson walks into the Williamson County courtroom in an orange jumpsuit. He's being held in the Williamson County jail on $1 million bond. The district attorney says he and Keyshawn Dixon are the main guys involved in last year's Juneteenth celebration mass shooting. Thursday morning, Thompson's defense attorney was pushing for his bond to be lowered, saying he's a teen who wants to finish school and has a support system that'll help him stay on track if he were to get out. The Williamson County District Attorney fighting against it.
We believe it's a danger to the community to have Ricky Thompson out in the community.
Thompson's grandmother testified before the shooting at Old Settlers Park, her home that Thompson was staying at was shot up on 2 different occasions.
To be clear, there was no shootings from Ricky Thompson or his friends. There was no violence from them. It was one way to them.
His grandmother said to this day, they still receive threats.
If he was released, though, do you believe that there would be more shootings directed towards him?
I think it's pretty absurd to say that a child should be locked in a cage so they don't get shot. I think we need to, that's not what bond is, it's not what jails are for. In fact, you don't put people in jail to protect them, you put the other people in jail that are trying to shoot them.
Court records reveal this all started after Thompson and Dixon's rap groups started feuding with each other. Thompson's aunt says she knew Thompson made music, but had never listened to it or watched his videos. The DA told her the videos include stacks of money, profanity, and guns that look like machine guns.
Is this the boy that you talk to every afternoon?
No, it's not. It's not at all. I am aware that there's supposedly guns, and asked him about it, and he said they were cops.
But he had a real gun that he fired at Old Settlers Park at the Juneteenth celebration, right?
So I'm told.
2 people were killed and 14 others were injured in that shooting. Thompson has spent almost 500 days in jail since, and that number will continue to rise. The judge denied his request for a lower bond. In fact, she added more restrictions in case he does post the $1 million bond. The district attorney told me he hopes to take Keyshawn Dixon's case to trial first, hopefully in the new year. He says there are thousands of pieces of digital evidence he's going to have to go through, and it's going to take a while. Mike.
Meredith, so far 7 people have been arrested in connection to this shooting. Do we expect any more people to be arrested?
Well, the district attorney told me they are still looking at people who may be connected to this mass shooting, but he says he is confident they have arrested the 2 main people, which are Keyshawn Dixon and Ricky Thompson.
Okay, Meredith Aldis in Williamson County tonight. Thank you. The Austin Police Department cracking down at East Breaker Lane, which has been a major crime hotspot for the past few years. Fox 7 Austin's Angela Shen joining us live from APD headquarters with details on that. Angela.
Yeah, the strategy isn't about waiting for the crime to happen. It's about trying to dismantle the network, like finding the people who are selling alcohol illegally or the places that have code violations in their buildings. East Breaker Lane in Northeast Austin has been a hotspot for crime. According to APD, since March of 2023, there have been 430 calls for service, 30 guns seized, 10 shot, 78 arrests, and 1 homicide. Nearly half of crime victims are under age 27. Most illegal gun arrests are under age 21.
The increase in violence, the increase in community concerns is something that we had to address.
APD is using a strategy called Place Network Investigation to bring down crime.
Place Network Investigations is a citywide strategy that uses crime science to reduce violence and chronic crime by dismantling the networks that support the place networks.
Police say this area is an after-party location and people congregate in the parking lot. There's Diablos, a strip club, and Michelobos, a bar and event spaces. APD teamed up with the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, Fire Marshal, Code Enforcement, and Municipal Court to gather intelligence and pull off an operation.
Assembling this team allowed us to really come up with a plan to attack that.
On September 26th at Diablos and Michelobos, authorities seized illegal gaming machines and alcohol. They found numerous code violations and arrested 3 people: Wilfredo Mahera Medina for probation violation and cocaine possession, and Gisela Morales and Miguel Ramos, both for selling alcohol illegally. Diablos is unlicensed, and Michelobos has a 90-day emergency order, which keeps them from operating until a hearing.
The licensed location was storing their alcohol off the premises, which is a violation of the Alcoholic Beverage Code, and the other location obviously does not have a permit, therefore they could not have that alcohol there.
A nuisance abatement action was filed against the property owners to try to get them to stop operating.
We will be continuing to use the legal avenues available to us to collaborate with city departments to try and improve the quality of life for the community and the people who live near the property.
There are still several hearings that have to happen. The code violations will go through the Austin Municipal Court. Mike?
Are there other places that APD is going to try and use this crime reduction strategy they're talking about?
Yeah, they've identified 4 other hotspots, all in different sectors. Of course, they didn't share where those were. That might defeat the purpose, but they do say that they're going to keep using this strategy in the future. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Angela. A gas station employee has been sentenced to 5 years in prison for shooting a man to death while at work. 27-year-old Yazi Naz was convicted for the murder of 42-year-old Marquise LeVar Demps. APD says Naz and the victim got into a fight inside the gas station where Naz worked. This happened back in January in 2023 at a Shell station at the corner of MLK and Springdale in East Austin. The victim tried to leave the store. The employee followed him. Video showed the employee firing several shots while the victim was sitting in his car with the door closed.
The full crew from Travis County ESD1 assembled Thursday morning to honor one of their own.
Jacob acted decisively without hesitation or benefit of emergency equipment.
That action brought this service award, a challenge coin, a handshake from Fire Chief Donnie Norman, and cheers from co-workers. For firefighter paramedic Jacob Kern, the ceremony at the Lago Vista Station House was almost as unexpected as the incident he witnessed Saturday morning in Austin.
I just thought it was someone made an accident, just hit the wall accidentally.
Jacob was off duty, traveling on Highway 183, and saw a sedan weaving in the road as they headed up the SH-45 East flyover. After the crash, he used his truck to block the ramp in order to stop oncoming traffic. This is a picture showing the scene and the car that hit the wall. As Jacob called 911, he saw the driver get out, take her shoes off, and move toward the retaining wall.
I tried to go slow because I didn't want to spook her anymore. I wanted her to feel comfortable with me.
As they talked, he was able to get a little closer, but then the woman made a sudden turn toward an unfinished ramp with a very steep drop-off.
When she got both feet up and started to lean, I lunged forward and just grabbed the back of her hoodie and pulled her down. And that's when she got very emotional. She began crying and screaming and begging me to let her do it. But I never let go of her hoodie. I held onto her hoodie as long as I possibly could. And I finally got her to open up a little bit. And then I told her, hey, I've got a little girl at home that wants to see me. Can we go to this safer area?
First responders from Austin eventually arrived and took the woman to a local hospital. The rescue was written up in this memo to the APD Awards Committee. The recommendation for the department's Distinguished Service Citation noted that his quick thinking and willingness to place himself at personal risk directly prevented the loss of life.
A firefighter, a police officer, paramedics, we're always at work. You know, we can't just shut it off.
That dedication apparently is also genetic. Jacob's father, according to Chief Norman, was an Austin firefighter.
I think we have a department of 85 heroes that are here, but every now and then, you know, we have one of our guys and gals that goes above and beyond. And Jacob, on this situation, clearly went above and beyond.
Did you have a chance to be scared?
So it all happened so fast that I'll say I was scared, but I didn't have a chance to think about being scared. It was just, I need to help this girl in this crisis, in this moment. And I'll be honest with you, it was like an act of God. I just did what I've been trained to do, and it just all happened so fast. The moment I got scared was after the fact. I peeked over the edge and saw how far down it was, and I'm so glad that everything ended up the way it did.
Thank you for watching the Fox 7 Austin Crime Watch digital exclusive. Our Crime Watch stories run each Monday on Fox 7 Austin News at 9. Remember to download our Fox Local mobile and connected TV apps. You can stream all our newscasts and watch our other content. For more on the stories highlighted in this episode, you can head to our website, fox7austin.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the Fox 7 Austin YouTube channel.